My father left everything to my stepbrother. Now my own mother is begging me not to contest the will. I don't think I've ever felt betrayal like this before. Even now, weeks later, I still wake up some mornings expecting to realize it was all a mistake, a nightmare I somehow misunderstood. But every time I check my phone, every time I glance at the legal documents sitting on my kitchen counter, the same brutal truth hits me all over again. My father left everything to my stepbrother. Not to me. Not to his own biological child. To him. I grew up without much. My parents divorced when I was 4, and for years it was just me and my mum, scraping by. When I was 12, she met Alan, charming, successful, older, and a year later they were married. I didn't mind at first. I was just a kid. I liked him. He brought stability. He made her laugh again. It felt like life was finally settling down. Then came Lucas, Alan's son from a previous marriage. He was 2 years older than me, cold, distant, but polite enough to avoid open conflict. We coexisted for years. We weren't close, but we weren't enemies either. Just parallel lives under the same roof. It wasn't until I was older that I started noticing the difference. The way Alan favored him. The way even my own mother seemed to bend herself into knots to keep Lucas happy. The way I was always the one expected to compromise, to be understanding, to take the back seat. I swallowed it. I told myself it didn't matter. That family wasn't about favoritism, it was about love. And then Alan got sick. It was cancer. Aggressive. Fast. I took time off work to help. I drove him to chemo. I sat by his bed when my mother couldn't. I did everything a daughter is supposed to do. Lucas? He barely showed up. Always busy. Always away for work. I didn't resent it at the time. I wasn't keeping score. I just stepped up because it was right. When Alan died, I grieved him. Despite everything, I loved him in my own way. I thought he saw me as his daughter. I thought I mattered. The funeral was quiet. Simple. Lucas stood at the front, giving the eulogy like the perfect son. My mother clung to my arm, sobbing. I thought, despite everything, that we were united in our grief. And then came the will. I wasn't expecting much. I wasn't the kind of person who counted money before bodies were even cold. But when the lawyer read it out, I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. Everything. Every asset. The house. The savings. The investments. All of it, to Lucas. I sat there, stunned, my heart pounding so hard I thought I was going to faint. I actually thought there must have been a mistake. That they'd read the wrong name. That some technicality had slipped through. But no. Alan had left me nothing. Not a token. Not a letter. Not even a thank you. Lucas didn't look at me. He just nodded politely, thanked the lawyer, and that was it. Business as usual. I remember looking at my mother, my voice barely a whisper. Did you know about this? Her eyes filled with tears. She squeezed my hand and murmured, please, don't fight it. He wanted it this way. Let it go. Let it go? Let go of the fact that I was erased? That the man I cared for until his last breath left me nothing but humiliation? I left without another word. And for the first time in my life, I felt utterly, completely alone. I don't even know how I drove home that night. I don't remember the roads, the traffic lights, nothing. Just this deafening silence inside my head, this raw, burning disbelief that kept circling like a vulture. He really did it. He left me nothing. My own mother doesn't want me to fight back. I spent the entire night sitting on the living room floor, my back against the cold wall, the legal documents in my lap. Every few minutes I'd open them again, as if somehow the words would change. As if this was all some clerical mistake that could be undone with a phone call. But they didn't change, and it wasn't a mistake. The next morning, Emma, my closest friend, came over the second she heard what happened. I must have looked like hell because her face crumpled the moment she walked in. "What did they do to you?" she whispered, crouching down beside me. I shoved the papers into her hands. "Read it," I rasped, my voice barely audible. "Read what he left me." She read in silence. Then her eyes snapped up, sharp with disbelief. "He left everything to Lucas? Even the house?" "Even?" I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Everything. I don't even exist on paper." Emma sat back, exhaling hard. "You're contesting this, right? Please tell me you're not just letting this happen." I hesitated. My hands trembled. "My mum begged me not to," I whispered. "She said it's what he wanted. That Lucas deserves it." She blinked, stunned. "Lucas deserves it? After you were the one who took care of him when he was dying? After Lucas disappeared for months and couldn't even show up for half his treatments?" I couldn't stop the tears from welling up again. The betrayal cut deeper than I could put into words. "She says I'm being petty, that I should respect Alan's wishes." Emma's voice hardened. "That's not respect. That's abuse. They used you. Both of them." I wiped my face roughly, my chest heaving. What if I contest it? What if I end up tearing my whole family apart? What if I lose even her? She grabbed my hand tightly. "Listen to me. You've already lost her. She made her choice the second she let this happen. Now you need to make yours." Her words hit like a slap, but a necessary one. She was right. The family I was so desperate to protect didn't exist. Not the way I thought. Later that day, after Emma left, my mother called. I let it ring 5 times before I picked up. My voice was cold, flat. "What do you want?" She sounded exhausted. "Small. Please, darling. I know this hurts. I know it's unfair. But I can't handle any more stress. I just lost my husband. I can't lose you too." I almost laughed. "You lost me the moment you chose him over me." She sighed, her voice trembling. "I didn't choose anyone. It's complicated. Alan, he had reasons. Things you don't understand. Lucas. Lucas didn't lift a finger while Alan was sick," I snapped, my voice rising. "And you know it. You know it." She stayed quiet. "I'm contesting it," I said softly but firmly. "I've already spoken to someone." That was a lie, I hadn't yet. But the words tasted good. Powerful. Like the first step out of drowning. She didn't reply. She just whispered, "I hope you know what you're doing." And then she hung up. I sat there for a long time afterward, my heart pounding, my hands shaking, but something in me felt lighter. Stronger. The decision was made. They erased me. They betrayed me. Now it was my turn to write the next chapter. I don't think I've ever felt more alone in my life. It's strange, grief isn't supposed to feel like this. It's not supposed to come with this bitterness, this suffocating sense of betrayal. But that's exactly what this was. It wasn't just about losing Alan. It was about losing the last illusions I had about my family. I wasn't just mourning his death. I was mourning the fact that, in the end, I meant nothing to him. I finally made the call 2 days later. I found a lawyer, Claire Menard, recommended by Emma's cousin. She specialized in inheritance disputes, and from the second she picked up the phone, I felt something solid under my feet for the first time since this all began. I laid it out for her. Every detail. The will. The sudden favoritism. The way I'd cared for Alan through his illness. The total absence of Lucas until the very end. Claire listened in silence. She didn't interrupt once. When I finished, there was a long pause. Then she spoke, her voice calm but sharp. "I'll be honest with you," she said. "This isn't uncommon. Stepfamilies, especially when money is involved, often leave one side devastated. But we have grounds here. solid ones. Emotional contributions, caretaking, history, these matter. We can contest this. Something in me cracked at her words. We can contest this. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't being dramatic. I was right to feel cheated. We scheduled a face-to-face for the following week. In the meantime, the situation at home worsened. My mother wouldn't stop calling. She left voicemails, long, rambling ones that swung wildly between guilt and manipulation. "It's not Lucas's fault," she whispered in one. "Alan made his choices. He wanted you to have memories, not money. In another, if you do this, you'll break the family beyond repair. Lucas won't forgive you. I won't know how to fix it." Fix it? There was nothing left to fix. And Lucas? He finally texted me. The message was short, clinical, almost smug. "I hope you can find peace. This was Dad's decision. I won't apologize for it." I stared at those words for so long my vision blurred. No apology. No shame. Just a man who had stood on the sidelines of Alan's life and walked away with everything I should have shared. I deleted the message without replying. But the worst came 3 days later. I received an email, anonymous, no name, no signature. Attached were photos, screenshots, scans of papers. And when I opened them, my entire body went cold. Bank transfers. Old ones. Large sums of money. All to Lucas. Dating back nearly 2 years before Alan even got sick. I kept scrolling, my hands shaking, my heart pounding harder with every image. I found one final attachment, a scanned letter, handwritten. Alan's handwriting. I read it once. Then again. It was a letter addressed to Lucas. Terse. Sharp. It said, "This is the last time. I won't fund your gambling anymore. If you come near the house again asking for more, you're dead to me." I dropped the phone. My breath came in shallow gasps. Lucas. The golden boy. The deserving son. He wasn't just absent, he was toxic. He had been using Alan. He had been bleeding him dry while I sat by that man's hospital bed, holding his hand, thinking we were family. The rage that ripped through me was unlike anything I'd ever felt. White hot. Blinding. They lied to me. All of them. And now I had proof. I wasn't backing down. Not now. Not ever. I barely slept that night. I lay in bed, my heart pounding, staring at the ceiling while the images replayed over and over in my mind, the bank transfers, the gambling debts, the letter. Pieces of a puzzle I'd been too blind, or too trusting, to put together before. Lucas wasn't just undeserving. He was a fraud. A manipulative parasite who had bled Alan dry behind closed doors while I spent years believing we were somehow family. By sunrise, something inside me had shifted completely. The heartbreak was still there, of course it was, but now it burned beneath something harder, sharper, resolve. I printed every document, every screenshot. I organized them into a folder. I dressed carefully that morning, pulling my hair back, wearing dark colors, simple but clean. I wasn't walking into that lawyer's office as a victim. I was walking in as someone ready for war. Claire, the lawyer, listened carefully as I laid everything out on her desk. She barely blinked as she read through the emails, the scans, the old letter. When she finished, she sat back, folded her hands, and gave me the first real smile I'd seen in weeks. "This changes everything," she said simply. I swallowed hard. "You really think we can fight this?" She nodded. "More than fight it. With this, we can challenge not only the will but the circumstances surrounding it. If we can prove undue influence, manipulation, or even cognitive decline, the entire will can be invalidated." The words barely sank in. I think part of me still couldn't believe it. That after everything, after the erasure, the lies, the betrayal, I actually had a chance to take back what was mine. We discussed next steps. Legal letters. court filings, timeframes. She warned me it wouldn't be quick, and it wouldn't be clean. Lucas would fight. My mother might too. But she was confident. And for the first time, I felt like I could breathe again. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. That evening, as I was locking up my flat, someone rang my doorbell. It was my mother. Her face, God, her face will haunt me forever. She looked smaller somehow. Older. Her eyes were puffy, her hands shaking slightly as she clutched her coat. I didn't want to let her in. I should have slammed the door. But I couldn't. She stepped inside without a word, sat down on the edge of my sofa, and for a long moment we just sat there in heavy, unbearable silence. Finally, she spoke. "I know what you found," she murmured. "Lucas called me. He knows you have the papers." I said nothing. My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. Her eyes filled with tears. "Please, please don't do this. You don't understand. Alan, he made mistakes. But he wanted to protect Lucas. He felt guilty. He didn't want to die with hate in his heart." I could barely breathe. "Protect him?" I whispered, my voice trembling with fury. "He gave him everything. And you let it happen." She shook her head desperately. "You don't know what it's like to watch your child spiral. Lucas, he's sick. He's always been troubled. Alan thought if he left him the inheritance, he'd have a chance to rebuild." I laughed. "Bitter. Hollow. Or he'll gamble it all away. Like he's always done." She broke then. Actually broke. She sobbed, hands covering her face, her whole body shaking. And for the first time, I realized something terrifying: she wasn't just complicit. She was broken. She had enabled Lucas for so long that she couldn't tell right from wrong anymore. When she finally looked up, her voice was barely a whisper. "Please. Don't do this. We'll lose him forever." I stood there, cold as stone. "You already lost me," I said softly. And I meant it. She left not long after. No hugs. No warmth. Just silence. And as I stood there in the dark, my heart pounding in my chest, I knew there was no going back. I wasn't just fighting for money. I was fighting for the truth. And I was ready to burn every bridge if that's what it took. The moment the door clicked shut behind her, I knew something inside me had finally snapped for good. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't collapse like I had the day I heard the will. I just stood there in complete silence, feeling something cold settle deep in my bones. This was no longer about money. It was about dignity. About not letting myself be erased by people who had chosen convenience over truth, appearances over love. For days, I moved like a machine. I signed the first legal papers with Claire. We sent the formal contestation notice to Lucas and the estate attorney. It was official now. There was no going back. And then the backlash started. Lucas was the first to break the silence. He sent me an email, long, venomous, pure poison. He accused me of disrespecting Alan's memory, of being greedy, of tearing the family apart for personal gain. I read it 3 times before deleting it without replying. Then came my mother again. Not in person this time, but with more messages, more voice notes full of guilt, of begging, of thinly veiled threats about how I'd regret this when she was gone too. She still didn't get it. I wasn't doing this to hurt anyone. I was doing it because they had already hurt me beyond repair. Emma never left my side. She was the only person who didn't treat me like the villain. She helped me gather more evidence, photos, old texts, anything that proved Alan's state of mind had been fragile near the end, anything that could show how Lucas had manipulated not just him, but all of us for years. And then, just when I thought the worst was behind me, I discovered something that made my blood run cold. I found an old email account of Alan's. I remembered the password from helping him set it up years ago, back when he still trusted me enough to ask for help. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But some part of me couldn't let it go. And that's where I found it. An email. Dated 6 months before he died. Addressed to his lawyer. In it, Alan was asking about changing his will. About adding me. About rectifying past mistakes before it's too late. I sat there for almost an hour, staring at the screen, my hands shaking so hard I could barely hold the mouse. He wanted to include me. He was planning to. And then, something stopped him. I forwarded the email to Claire immediately. She called me within minutes. "This changes everything," she said, her voice tight. "If we can show that Alan intended to change the will before his death but was prevented or manipulated, we can not only contest the will, we can overturn it entirely." I felt like I couldn't breathe. Like I'd been underwater for weeks and was finally breaking the surface. It wasn't just a feeling anymore. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining it. Something had happened, something dark, something calculated, and now I had proof that I wasn't just being written out of a will. I was being erased from my own life. I hung up the phone, my heart pounding, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something sharp and dangerous rise inside me. I was going to win. No matter what it cost. I barely slept that night. The weight of the email, the proof that Alan had wanted to change the will, that somewhere deep down he hadn't wanted to leave me with nothing, kept me awake, my mind spinning in 100 directions. I kept asking myself the same questions over and over. What stopped him? Who stopped him? How deep does this betrayal actually go? Claire was right, this email was the smoking gun. But even with it, we needed to be careful. Lucas wasn't going to roll over quietly. And my mother? I didn't even know who she was anymore. The next morning, I got the confirmation Lucas had lawyered up. His response was swift, formal, and full of barely concealed hostility. He accused me of harassment, opportunism, and even implied I was mentally unstable. His lawyer tried to paint me as a bitter, greedy outsider trying to profit off a tragedy. I almost laughed when I read it. Me? The one who stayed. The one who cared for Alan when Lucas was too busy chasing God knows what. The one who sat by that hospital bed night after night while they vanished. I sent everything to Claire. She was calm, if anything, she seemed even more energized by the aggression. "It's exactly what I expected," she said coolly. "Desperate men lash out first. We'll hold the line." But then came something I didn't expect. My mother showed up again. Unannounced. At my door. Her eyes were red, her face drawn. She looked exhausted, smaller than I'd ever seen her. She didn't wait to be invited in. She just pushed past me and sat down, clutching a tissue in her hands. "I know about the email," she said softly. I stayed standing. "And?" She looked up, her eyes glassy with unshed tears. He was confused. He wasn't thinking clearly. I felt my stomach twist. "You knew," I whispered. "You knew he was planning to change it." She closed her eyes. He was sick. He didn't know what he wanted. I convinced him to leave it as it was. To keep the peace. I staggered back a step like she'd hit me. She looked up, panic in her voice now. "I didn't think he'd actually go through with changing it. I thought it would be easier this way. Lucas, he's always been fragile. I just..." "Stop," I choked, my voice cracking. "Stop lying to yourself." I couldn't breathe. She hadn't just stood by. She had helped. She had guided Alan into leaving me out. All to keep Lucas with his lies, his gambling, his manipulations, protected. I shook my head, ball rising in my throat. I was there. I held his hand. I gave up everything to help. "And you still," my voice broke. "You still chose him." She started to cry, but I couldn't find even a flicker of sympathy left in me. "I don't want your tears," I said coldly. "I want the truth." And that's when she finally said it. Her voice barely audible, she whispered, "Lucas told me, if Alan changed the will, he'd kill himself. I froze. My blood ran cold. She wiped her face roughly. I believed him. I was so scared. I thought if I kept things the same, he'd be safe. He'd have the house. The money. He wouldn't do anything stupid. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. I couldn't even move. They had chosen Lucas over me out of fear. Out of some twisted survival instinct. And in doing so, they had destroyed everything. I finally found my voice, low and cold. You both sacrificed me to save him. She looked at me, her whole body shaking. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Please don't let this tear us apart forever. But it was already too late. I stood there for what felt like forever before I finally said the only thing left in me, it already has. She left not long after. I didn't follow. I didn't hug her. I didn't promise to call. And when the door closed, I sat down on the floor, the silence wrapping around me like a shroud. The truth was uglier than I'd imagined. And I still wasn't done fighting. The days that followed felt surreal, like I was living someone else's life. I kept waiting for the weight in my chest to lift, but it didn't. It sat there, heavy, cold, while I went through the motions: work, sleep, meetings with Claire, endless emails, legal drafts. Each day pushed me further from who I used to be, deeper into something harder, sharper, less forgiving. I wasn't the same person who had sat by Alain's bedside holding his hand. I wasn't the daughter desperate for her mother's approval. I wasn't the woman who thought family meant loyalty. I was someone new now, someone who had finally learned that sometimes survival means cutting out the rot, no matter how deep it runs. Claire's team moved fast. With the email, the old financial records, the patterns of manipulation, we built a case that was undeniable. Even my mother's panicked admission, the fact that she had helped push Alain into a will he no longer wanted, was documented, signed, sealed. The formal court date was set. And then, almost as if the universe couldn't resist one last twist, Lucas himself showed up at my door. I knew better than to let him in. I kept the chain on the lock and stepped outside, closing the door behind me. He looked awful. Gaunt. Tired. Pale. But I felt nothing. No pity. No fear. Just cold detachment. Can we talk? He said quietly. I folded my arms. We're past that. He sighed, rubbing his face with trembling hands. I know you hate me. I know I messed up. But please don't do this. I need that money. I can't survive without it. I almost laughed in disbelief. You're unbelievable. You think I'm the problem? After everything you've done? After what you did to Alain? To me? His eyes darted around like he was looking for an angle. I was desperate, he whispered. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I thought he'd fix it before it was too late. I shook my head. He tried to fix it. You're the reason he couldn't. His hands clenched into fists. You don't understand. I've got people after me. I made mistakes, yes, but I'm not the villain here. My jaw tightened. Then who is, Lucas? The man who tried to help you until the day he died? The woman who destroyed her own child to keep you alive? Or me, for refusing to be erased? His face twisted. You don't need the money. I laughed. Cold. Bitter. It was never about the money. It's about not letting you rewrite history. Not this time. He stared at me, breathing hard, then looked away. If you do this, he said softly, I won't survive it. I met his eyes without flinching. That's not my problem anymore. I walked back inside, closed the door, and locked it. And for the first time since this all began, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel torn. I felt done. Later that night, Emma poured us wine while I told her everything. She didn't interrupt. She just listened, her eyes fierce with the kind of loyalty I'd stopped expecting from the people who shared my blood. "Are you okay?" she asked softly when I finally finished. I thought about it for a long time before answering. "I don't know," I whispered. "But I know I'm not going back." The court date was 10 days away. And whatever happened next, I knew one thing for sure: I'd already survived the worst. And I wasn't afraid anymore. The day of the hearing came faster than I expected. I barely slept the night before. I lay awake in Emma's guest room, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding with that strange mix of fear and quiet determination. I kept replaying everything, every betrayal, every lie, every time I swallowed my pain just to keep the peace. But this time I wasn't swallowing anything. I was finally fighting back. Claire met me at the courthouse steps. She looked calm, polished, unshaken. I envied her for that. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. She placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder before we walked in. "You're ready," she said softly. "And we have the truth on our side." Inside, Lucas was already there. He looked thinner. Pale. His eyes were red-rimmed, his suit ill-fitted, like he'd thrown himself together at the last minute. My mother sat beside him, her face expressionless, drained of the warmth I once thought was maternal love. I didn't speak to them. I didn't look their way. The hearing itself blurred in parts. The lawyers laid out everything: the original will, the contested documents, the email Alan had written about changing his decision, the bank transfers, the debts. Every ugly truth I had uncovered was dragged into the open under sterile court lighting. Lucas's lawyer tried to paint me as bitter, grasping, emotional. But Claire dismantled them, piece by piece, with calm, clinical precision. Every time they mentioned family loyalty, she brought it back to facts: care, contribution, intention, manipulation. And then, for the first time, my mother took the stand. I don't think I'll ever forget that moment. She looked so small up there. Fragile. But when the questions came, about Alan, about Lucas, about the pressure that was applied, she didn't lie. She broke down. "I was afraid," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I didn't want to lose both of them. I thought I was doing the right thing by not interfering." Her voice cracked. "I didn't realize I was sacrificing my daughter in the process." The room fell silent. Even Lucas's eyes dropped to the floor. I didn't cry. Not then. Not in front of them. But something inside me shifted. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever, but something that felt like release. Like I was finally being seen for the first time. The hearing ended. The decision wasn't immediate. They told us it would take a few days for the ruling to be finalized. But I already knew. I'd won. Even if the judge didn't overturn the will, even if some technicality kept Lucas in control of the money, he would never erase me. The truth was out. The mask was off. And I wasn't the one bleeding for them anymore. 3 days later, Claire called me. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the smile in it. "We won," she said softly. "The court ruled in your favor. The will is invalid. A new distribution will be ordered." I sat there in stunned silence, tears filling my eyes but not falling. It was over. I didn't call my mother. I didn't reach out to Lucas. I didn't need to. I took my son for ice cream that afternoon. Emma joined us. We laughed. We breathed. For the first time in what felt like years, I felt light. I don't know what's next. There's still grief. Still scars. Still echoes of betrayal I'll probably carry forever. But I know this: I survived the people who were supposed to love me. And I'm still standing. On my terms.
Follow me for more stories.